Well, I think at his very best, and many of his wonderful works are shown here, are really the beauty of his works. And he combines a certain sumptuousness and splendor with a spareness, where he's very careful and limits many of the elements of his work. So on the one hand, you have a feeling of great abundance of beauty, and yet it's done in a very careful way and has a certain asceticism. Well, it's difficult to point out just one painting that I like the most, because of course I like so many of the paintings. But this painting, The Sacred Grove, Dear to the Arts and Muses, Le Bois Sacré cher aux arts et muses, is one of my favorite paintings. It comes and was lent through the generosity of the Chicago Art Institute. Chicago is my hometown. But this really epitomizes Puvis de Chavannes. It is very most inventive in terms of subject matter and appropriate subject matter for a museum, and for composition, and for the colors and the formal qualities that he developed. Now, because he painted huge mural paintings for various public places, once they were installed, they were no longer available to exhibit. So as a routine matter, when he began with his large wall paintings, he painted reduced versions after them so he might exhibit them. And these were widely acquired throughout the world. So this painting, along with the other paintings, are in various museums, and they're reunited here at the Bunkamura Museum to be shown together. And there's also a wonderful installation which shows how they were installed in the museum. What's important to note is that, first of all, you have a composition which is absolutely appropriate for a museum. The word museum really comes from the word for where the muses dwell. Each of these female figures represents a certain art form, so that you have lyric poetry, for example, flying in, or you have a history, the woman there with the tablet, or you have rhetoric. And here, very much at the side and pushed over is to the side, so she's not part of the scene, is tragedy. But you notice the wonderful colors that he now uses. These are really chords of color. They're opaque, and they're lightened, and they're softened to create a dreamlike composition. So you have also, now the figures in his mature work are strung out, and you have a rhythm that sets a very even rhythm between the trees here and then the rhythm of the muses that are separate, that very much goes with the architecture for which this was designed. Well, these two paintings once were one painting, and it's a reduced version of an enormous mural again, which is in the Museum of Picardy in Amiens in northern France. And the title of the entire painting, which at one point became then severed into two parts, is Pro Patria Ludus, or Ludus Pro Patria, which means play for the country, or play games for the fatherland. And it represents a great frieze of 1882, where the wall painting itself, the figures are about life size. And there are three sections, which are here reunited. In fact, one painting comes from Toledo in the United States, another one now in England. On the left, you have a community of people who are peacefully living and working together, and that was to show that an ideal community, an Arcadian community. In the center, again in classicizing terms, which is what Puvis used, are people who are throwing pikes. Pikes are the typical weapon of Picardy, and really what Puvis is referring to in a way is the Franco-Prussian War, which had taken place about 10 years before. Many people felt that France was unprepared. So the men practicing pike throwing, their weapons, really is a reference to being prepared militarily for whatever might come. And on the right, the beautiful section there shows the family unit as being a very important fundamental unit in the ideal society, where you have people of various ages, a grandfather, a grandchild, a mother with a child and the father all participating together. The important thing, though, also is the way that Piüvi composes his work and really creates units in which the figures seem to be all but engineered into place so that they seem to be interdependent clusters of figures. Piüvi de Chavannes worked for 50 years, 5 decades, and over that time his work changed tremendously. So I hope that people who come to the exhibition will see how he started off, the circumstances under which he developed his work, and then the really zenith, the wonderful works of his maturity where he was fully inventive. And I hope that they'll understand the difference between his public works, which were done for great museums and huge and enormous wall paintings for these public places, and then his more private and personal works, which are here. And the works that are in the exhibition come from all over the world, almost, and happily, from the 50 years that Piüvi painted, there are paintings, and very important paintings from Japanese collections representing each of those works. But in short, I hope that the people who come to the exhibition really look and enjoy all the wonderful things that are here, the paintings in the exhibition.